do know that I am capable of giving books 5 stars. So I feel like I don't really know where to go from this point. Oh my god, could this be a 5-star? Hello friends, my name is Gabby, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be starting on another reading vlog. This is going to be a special episode of the Backlist Bonanza, which if you're unfamiliar, it's basically a reading vlog dedicated to reading books off of my backlist. I know there might be some debate about what exactly is considered a backlist book, but I consider it any book that's been on my shelves for about a year or longer. This episode of the Backlist Bonanza is going to be very special because it's going to be the type of reading vlog where I can't stop reading until I find a 5-star. And the reason why I wanted to do that for this round of the Backlist Bonanza is because if you've seen the previous episodes, which I will have linked down below by the way, the previous episodes have just not been going very well for me. I've been doing the method of like having a spin the wheel, pick some of the books that are on my backlist shelf. And while that method has been super fun because it's, you know, encouraged me to get to some books that I probably would have never picked up on my own, which is the reason why I wanted to do that in the first place. It was super fun, you know, to have the spin the wheel pick the books for me. With those vlogs, I just was not having that much success with like actually enjoying the books that I was reading. So I thought for this episode of the Backlist Bonanza, I would try to challenge myself to actually pick up books that are on my backlist, like books that I've been wanting to read for years, that I've owned for a while, books that I actively think maybe I could give this 5 stars and maybe it will be a new favorite. Like I actually have hope for that. Believe it or not, but I do own a lot of books that I'm kind of like, I don't know if this will be my thing, but I kind of want to give it a shot kind of books. But no, these are going to be the books that I feel like they could be 5 stars just by looking at them. I don't know why. Sometimes I don't even have a real reason to think that they could be 5 stars. I'm just really trying to get through some of my backlist books this year, you know, because I do have such a large TBR. I have so many books that I own that I have not yet read, and so it's hard for me to try and prioritize those because I'm the kind of reader who really loves reading the new releases, you know, and I get very excited about the new books coming out. So I feel like this Backlist Bonanza series is a great opportunity for me to read those books that have been sitting on my shelves for a while. I did select a few books off of my shelves that I have good feelings about, you know? I mean, these vlogs are hard for me to do because they are so out of my control, because I don't know how many books I'm gonna read for this video. I don't know when I'm gonna get the 5-star. And you know, as someone who is quite the planner, it is a little bit stressful for me to make these kinds of videos, you know, because I don't know when it's gonna end. I don't know, am I even gonna find a 5-star in this stack? Like, who knows? But these are some books that are currently calling my name that I think could be interesting to read in this vlog, that I do have hopes that any of these could be 5 stars. And I mean, in this stack of books, we do have some books that came out as recently as last year that I've just heard some really great things about. But then there are some books in this stack that came out around like 2017, 2019. This one published in 2007, and then this one published in 1994. So there are some books on this list that have been around for a while that I have not read yet. I think I want to start with Paper Names because this one, I think it has an average on Goodreads of about 3.6. I really do think that this one could be something that I'll love. I don't know if it's going to be 5 stars for me though, but this is one that's been on my TBR for a while now, and just one that I've had my eye on, one that I've been meaning to get around to. The audiobook is only 8 hours long that I have checked out from my library, so I feel like this one might be the best one to start with. So I think I'll get started on Paper Names and then I'll let you know what I think once I get into it. Hello, I am here with an update because I actually just finished reading Paper Names. I would have updated you sooner, but honestly, like, this audiobook was such a quick read. I actually took a walk outside today and it started raining on me while I was walking. So like, that wasn't cool, but I should have known. It's been like really weird weather all day out today. So Paper Names, unfortunately, it was not a 5-star read for me, so the vlog will continue on. But this story was really interesting. I feel like this is one of those like historical fiction, kind of literary fiction novels that's essentially about family and a lot about like family drama and character development. So in this story, we're following these 3 different characters over 3 different kind of timelines. The main character that we're following is this guy named Tony, and he was originally born in China. And back in China, he was an engineer, but then when he moved his whole family to America because he wanted a better life for them, he ended up working as a doorman in New York City. And so we get his perspective as the main one that we're following, but then we do get his daughter's perspective as well, Tammy, but it's interesting because we follow from her perspective as a child as she's growing up in China, and then through her perspective we kind of see the difficulties of what it was like when she was growing up in China to have to move to America. And then we also, the third point of view we get in this book is from this guy named Oliver, who's this white lawyer man who happens to live in the same building where Tony is the doorman for the building. And so the book starts where there's this like very violent incident at the start of this book that Tony is involved in, and that's kind of how the character Oliver meets him and gets kind of introduced to his character. I can see why a lot of people would really enjoy this book because I do feel like this is one of those really powerful stories that's about an immigrant family, you know, moving to America and facing some harsh treatment from like, you know, the local people here, because, you know, a lot of the people in America that they encounter are the type of people who like, they don't want Chinese people to have their jobs and they don't want the Chinese people to take away opportunities from them, you know, just like the typical racist bullshit. I really struggled with Oliver's character, I'm not gonna lie. I found him to be so annoying, and I kind of knew as soon as I read his perspective at the start of this book that I was like, yeah, there's no way that this is gonna be a 5-star, just because, I don't know, I couldn't get on board with Oliver's perspective. I almost wish that this book didn't include Oliver as a character. Instead, like, I wish his perspective wasn't in it. Like, I could have done without it, I guess. But I definitely connected with Tammy's perspective, even though I thought it was really sad and really hard to read this at times. There is a lot of talk in this book about, you know, families, and these families have these dark secrets that they don't want to pass down onto the next generation. And this story, you know, it really is about how like your parents' decisions and like things in their lives really do pass down and affect the children in the future. I think this was a really heavy book in a lot of ways, but I also think I'm probably only gonna end up giving this 3 stars because while I did enjoy a lot of the themes explored in this book, I also think I never really connected with the characters in the way that I wanted to. I do think it would have made this story a lot more impactful if I had been emotionally invested, but unfortunately I just didn't emotionally connect with this. And I don't know if that was just because of the writing itself or because of like the characters, I never really got invested in them, but especially because of Oliver's character, to be honest. Like, if the book didn't have Oliver's character, I feel like I would have gotten more time with these other characters and could have gotten more invested in them. But this was definitely still an enjoyable read, and I think if you're the kind of person who likes historical fiction or literary fiction that's specifically kind of talking about the struggles that immigrants might face when they come to America, then I think you could end up really enjoying this one. Last night I decided to get a start on The Memory Police, and I only got 78 pages in and I'm already really loving this. Like, I'm already feeling like, oh my god, could this be a 5-star? This book is just written in a way that is immediately drawing me in and immediately has me so curious. And this is the kind of like weird speculative kind of fiction that I really like. So in this story, we're following these characters who like live on this island in this world where things will disappear from the island, and then the memories about those objects will also disappear for everybody on the island. Say for example, like perfume is something that has disappeared. So like not only will anything that is perfume will like disappear from the island, but then eventually everyone's memories of perfume completely vanishes and it's like not even something that exists in their world anymore. They said it's all but impossible to recall the things we've lost on the island once they're gone. And so then the daughter asks her mother, because like her mother is telling her the story about perfume, and she's like, well, how can you remember? And her mother says, I suppose because I'm always thinking about them. And so she knows that her mother is able to recall and remember these objects that nobody else on the island can remember. It's really fascinating because the main protagonist that we're following in this story, she's actually an author and she writes novels. She's published 3 different books now, but she says that novels are not very popular on the island because nobody has a need for them. There's some talk in this book about how like the memory police, or like the people that are in charge on this island, they're starting to analyze the genes of everyone on the island, because I guess there's been, you know, some talk going around that like some people are able to retain retain their memories. And the memory police think that that's a really big fucking problem. So they're trying to identify the people who can keep their memories. And so she's starting to wonder about her mother, you know, because her mother had died in this weird kind of like accidental situation, and she's starting to wonder, like, was her mother actually harmed? Because her mother could recall her memories. And the main storyline that's happening in this book is how our main protagonist is going to help out her friend. He's like one of the only people in her life, and he's actually the editor, like the one who reads her books first and like gives her feedback, her editor. He's one of the people that can recall his memories, and so he's being put into danger. And so the main premise of this book so far is about how she's going to be trying to help him by hiding him from the memory police. And this story is just so unique. It's so interesting. It's so thoughtful. I love some of the discussion in this book already that is just so thought-provoking. Like when she talks about like what would happen if words disappear, or if words is like the next memory that goes missing. Like what the fuck would that look like? I can definitely tell why this book is considered to be a classic after all these years, you know, because this one did come out in 1994 and it was translated from Japanese originally, but it doesn't read to me like something that came out a long time ago. Not that 1994 was like that long ago. I mean, shit, it was like the year before I was born. I feel like oftentimes when I read books that were published quite some time ago, I feel like I can always tell. But with this book, I can't really tell. Like this feels like it could have been published like last year, and I would be like, yeah. So I do like that. I like how easy it is to read. I don't know if that's because it was translated that it's really easy to read, but I'm loving this so much so far. So I just had to update you because it's going so well. Like I don't want to jinx it this early on because there's still so much of the book that I have to go, but this is feeling like it could be 5 stars already. So like that makes me so happy. Anyways, today I think I'm going to try to read a little bit more of this. I don't know if I'll be able to finish it today. I mean, that would be really cool, but I am going to try to read some more of that today. I just finished filming a video that I'm very excited about. I don't know if I'm going to try to edit this video right away, which I might do that right now instead of reading. It is many hours later. It's about 9 o'clock at night. Earlier today, I was able to film and edit the video that I was trying to get done today. I also went on a walk. I was able to make some really good dinner. I swear I've been making those like fiesta bowls is what I call them, almost like once a week now. And I just love them so much. But I wanted to update because I just finished reading The Memory Police. And I am just so impressed with this book. I'm honestly just so blown away. There's just something about the writing of this book that really drew me in. You know, I actually looked on Goodreads and I saw some reviewers complaining about that actually and saying that the writing style felt too simplistic or like basic, but I actually really liked the writing style in this book. There was something so haunting about it. And I feel like this story in general just felt really sad. Like the way that this book was written was just so lyrical to me. I think the story itself is just so weird and kind of like claustrophobic, you know, because the idea of like all of these characters living in this place where their memories just start to vanish, and the way it was described was just so interesting every time, because like she would wake up and realize like something had disappeared and she'd be like, wait, what was it? What was it that disappeared? And as soon as she would remember the thing that's starting to disappear, it's like she would slowly start to forget like how to pronounce that word. It was just so unique and so interesting. Like I've literally never read a book like this. It was so original. I also think it was a little bit unpredictable because there would be times where it would go in a direction where I was like, oh my god, because I kept wondering with this whole like things that are disappearing, I was like, how far are we gonna go with this idea? And this book went pretty far with it. Like things got very weird at the end of this book in a way that I really personally loved. But I do think that I can see why there could be a lot of people that don't really enjoy this book, because I do think that this is one of those books that it doesn't give you any answers. Even like plot-wise in this book, I would say that there's not a lot happening plot-wise other than, you know, you're just watching these characters on this island living their day-to-day lives, and every now and then they'll forget something and like something is gonna slip from their memories. But I just found it so interesting and I really did connect with the characters in this. One of the things about this book that I found to be a little bit slow is the fact that, you know, our character is a writer, and I forgot to mention this in the last update, but in between some of the chapters we do get kind of like a book within a book. Like we get to read some of her writing. And honestly, those parts of the book or those scenes I just found to be okay. Like, I wasn't super invested in like the book within a book thing that was happening. I just really love how thought-provoking this book ended up being at the end of the day. And like, there are so many different conversations that you could pull from this book that you could discuss for like hours afterwards. I mean, so many conversations about how like, do our memories make us who we are? What do we even look like when we start to lose some of our very core memories? This definitely reminded me of like other classics that I've read, you know, like Fahrenheit 451 and like 1984, just to name a few. But there was something about the writing that just felt very like hypnotic to me. It was just a very enjoyable read. Like, I was definitely captivated for the entire time that I was reading this. Like, there were a few like slower parts where it started to like lose my attention just a little bit. But honestly, like the concept in this book is just so original and so unique. As far as like my ratings go, I really do struggle with wanting to rate this one because I think the idea for this book and like the concept in this book is definitely a 5-star, but I feel like the reading experience for me is probably more closer to a 4-star. So it's like, I do think I want to rate this one somewhere between 4 and 4.5 stars. I don't think I can quite give it the 5 stars, but gosh, I can't deny that this is going to be a book that I'm thinking about for such a long time. Lately, I just find it so hard to find books like this that are so original in its ideas. And I love anything that has to do with like memories and like memories being taken from us. Like, I don't know, I think it's a very interesting concept. So I had a wonderful time with The Memory Police. Wow, we got really close to a 5-star right there. And honestly, if I was being a little bit less picky, I probably would have just given this 5 stars. But damn, The Memory Police is incredible. So I have spent the entire morning just laying in bed reading All Systems Red by Martha Wells. And this one is a sci-fi novella. It's actually about only 149 pages, so it was very short. This audiobook was only 3 hours long, so it was a very quick reading experience. And you know, if you know me and my reading taste, you'll probably know that I don't often read sci-fi. Sci-fi is a genre that I do tend to enjoy sometimes, but I think I'm very specific with my taste, I guess, when it comes to what I like in sci-fi. But you know, some sci-fi books in the past that I've absolutely loved include like Project Hail Mary. Like, that ended up being my #1 favorite book of the year when I read it back in 2021. I do love a lot of like Andy Weir's stuff and a lot of Blake Crouch's stuff. And I really love Mickey 7, which this actually did remind me quite a bit of Mickey 7. This story, it's really interesting because we're following this robot, and this robot is basically working with a team of scientists trying to protect them. So basically the plot of this book is just about how these scientists, you know, these humans, are studying all the different things on this new planet, and we just get to follow from the perspective of the robot who's like watching them and protecting them. And I will admit that this was a very interesting perspective to follow, and I really did love this character, like this Murderbot character. I thought it was such an entertaining perspective to read from. I do tend to love in books when we get the perspective of something that's not human, but they're observing humans and kind of like making fun at like, oh, that's so ridiculous, why are humans like this, or why would they do that? It is one of those tropes that I just absolutely eat that shit up. Like, I love it. And I love the fact that this Murderbot doesn't really like humans very much, and I think that just added to the comedy of this and just made it really entertaining. But I've gotta say, I feel like I didn't love this book as much as I was expecting to, and I think the main reason for that is just because I see this book everywhere. Everybody loves this book series. Everybody's giving this like 5 stars. And I feel like for me, this was just okay. I'm probably gonna end up giving this one around 3 stars. I'm kind of undecided if I want to continue in the series or not. Like, I'm not against the idea of reading more from this, but I'm not like jumping to read the next book, you know? I don't know, it's like, while I did love reading from the perspective of this character, like the Murderbot, I loved reading from the Murderbot's point of view. I thought it was so freaking funny. But as far as like the plot and the sci-fi elements of this, I just wasn't that invested in the story, I guess. I'm grateful that this story was only 149 pages because it went by very quickly, and I do think the writing itself is like very fast paced, but I also think some of the sci-fi, I think it just went over my head just a little bit, which is what tends to happen in sci-fi sometimes, which is why I don't read it super often. I don't know if it's because I have to be in like a very specific mood to enjoy a sci-fi book, or if there's just only specific things that really work for me in sci-fi. But I did enjoy this one. I just don't know if I loved it as much as I was hoping to. Like, I really thought that this could be 5 stars and it could be a new favorite for me. There were some scenes though too with this Murderbot that I found some some of the things that they were saying, I just found it to be so funny and like so relatable. I loved the little section where they were talking about how they don't have any gender or any sex related parts. And they're like, that would be a sex bot, not a murder bot. And I love how this murder bot was like so obsessed with like the TV shows that it would be watching, because there's a TV show that this robot is obsessed with called Sanctuary Moon. And I'm like, is that supposed to be like Sailor Moon? This was cute. I enjoyed my time reading it. I didn't love it the way that I wanted to though, so the vlog will go on. Next, I've decided that I want to start This Is How You Lose the Time War, which, how ironic that on the very back of this, there's a blurb from the author of All Systems Red. And Martha Wells, the author of this one, blurbed on the back and she said, "Rich and Strange, a romantic tour through all of time and the multiverse." This is another book that I've been wanting to read for literally forever. It's also on the shorter side. It is just under 200 pages at about 198 pages, so I don't imagine it'll take me too long to read this one either. Only thing that I know about this book is that it involves romance and time travel. I think this one does probably have some sci-fi elements as well. I can't remember for sure, but I'm gonna start on this one next and I'll let you know. Some time has passed. It is the next day. Yesterday, I ended up going to the gym and I am feeling it today. Oh my god, I am so sore. And then last night, I decided to like treat myself a little bit and get one of my favorite Asian spots in my town. It's this like ribeye yaki dish that I'm like really obsessed with. Oh my god, it was so good. But yesterday, while I was at the gym, I ended up starting on This Is How You Lose the Time War. And I'm so upset about this, but I think I'm gonna have to DNF this book. Like, I cannot get invested in this for the life of me. You know, maybe it was a mistake on my part to try to pick up another sci-fi book like back to back after the experience I just had with the last one. And I really struggled to get into books like this. Like, I have no idea plot-wise like what the heck is going on in this book. It's like the writing is just going in one ear and out the other. All I understand about this book is that we're following these two agents named Red and Blue, and they are rival agents who are writing each other letters. I mean, the first letter that this character finds, the letter reads "burn before reading." And so of course they're like intrigued and they read this letter from this person, and this entire story is told in the letters that they're writing to each other. But it's also confusing because there's also like time travel happening, and I feel like none of it is really explained, so I have no idea what's going on the entire time that I'm reading this. And some of the letters will be like, "Sorry, I haven't gotten back to you in the last like 10 years. I think it's been like 10 years for your timeline, right?" And it's just very confusing for me to follow. Not only am I like not invested in the characters, I feel like because this story is entirely told through their letters back and forth, I feel like I don't really know much, if anything, about them as characters, and so I'm really struggling to connect with any of the characters in this. And not only do I not really care about what I'm reading, I guess, but I also just can't really pay attention to like what is even happening. Like, I'm finding the writing to be so confusing. I saw one review on Goodreads that said, "This book and my brain are like oil and water because we just do not mix." And I'm like, yeah, that's how I'm genuinely feeling about it. Like, I am so confused. Like, what is even happening in this book? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. So I think around 70 pages in, I'm gonna have to DNF it because I just don't think that I can get invested in this, which is so unfortunate. I'm super upset about this one being a DNF because I really thought that this could be a 5-star, which is why I've been so excited to read it for so many years. So I feel like I don't really know where to go from this point. This afternoon, I'm actually gonna go and play pickleball with like my dad and Rachel and Obed. My dad is a huge pickleball fan, and he's been trying to get me to play it for quite some time now. So it should be a really fun afternoon. I've actually never played pickleball before. Like, Rachel and Obed have gone with my dad a few times now, but I never was able to do it because like with my stuff that I had going on, it was always on a day where like I wouldn't make it. And so now this is gonna be like my first time going and playing pickleball with all of them, and I'm so excited and so nervous because it's something that my dad just like really loves. So hopefully I love it too, and hopefully it's a really fun time. Also, Tank says hi and wants to give hugs.
Yeah, here, let's split it up.
Yeah, let's put Gabby on there.
So, you're obviously oh, Dave, you explain.
When you have to serve cross court to like a Richard's box.
You'd be serving to me.
You can go all the way up to it.
Good.
Baby, we go back
Hello, it has been about a week since the last time that I updated this vlog. Since the last time that I saw you, I have actually read 4 different books, and I had 2 5 stars for the other reading vlog that I've been working on, so I do know that I am capable of giving books 5 stars. And I think I just need to be more strategic about how I'm going about this. I also just wanted to mention that not only was pickleball with my dad and Rachel and Obed, it was so much fun. In the last week, I've actually gone back again and played with my dad, and I think it's something that I actually want to like try to get into, and like I feel like I just really need a sporty hobby. You know, like I need something that's gonna like keep me active and having fun, and so pickleball was fantastic. I highly recommend. It's really fun. It's kind of like tennis, but like it's a smaller court and the ball is a lot easier to hit and the rackets are smaller, so it feels like tennis, but there's a little bit less running involved. At least that's my experience with it, but I don't know, I thought pickleball was so much fun. But anyways, I was looking at some backlist books that I have on my shelves, and I was thinking, well, what if I try to read books that are specifically from authors that I've given 5 stars in the past? You know, like I feel like that's a smart way to go about this. So on my shelf, I found these 2 books. I have The Good Samaritan by John Marrs, and then I also have Under the Rainbow by Celia Lasky, because, you know, in the past, I have given John Marrs 5 stars before with his book, The One. And then I also have loved a book from Celia Lasky in the past with So Happy For You. I know that this is a book that a lot of people really don't like, but I gave this 5 stars. Like, I loved everything about this. It just really worked for me. And so I thought, wouldn't that be smart to like pick up books that are on my backlist from authors that I have previously loved in the past? And so last night I decided to read the first chapter of both of these to see which one would pull me in right away. And I do think that Under the Rainbow is actually the one that's like pulling me in right away. This one is just really interesting so far because it's all taking place in this very small town called Big Burr that's in Kansas. And it's really cool because so far it seems like every chapter of this story is told from the perspective of a different character who's living in this small town. And so the first chapter we get is from this young girl named Avery, who's this young teenage girl. And this book right away, the writing style is just so like funny and kind of odd because she talks about how this little town of Big Burr has been considered to be one of the most homophobic towns in the US, and how there's this really big LGBT nonprofit called Acceptance Across America where they basically like go into these small towns and they try to like convert the people that are like the most homophobic people in the country. They try to like make them see the other side and like start to accept gay people. And so it's fascinating because this character Avery that we're following, her mom is like the head of this queer task force, but she like doesn't want the other kids in the town to know that her mom is the head of this queer task force because she doesn't want to get like bullied for it. And it's funny because she talks about how she has a lot of shame that she's straight because she has these like gay moms, like they kind of expect her to be gay as well, and they kind of like scoff at like how ridiculous straight people are. And Avery's like, oh my god, like I don't want to bring shame to my family because I think that I'm straight. And so like it's just kind of funny, like I don't know, the commentary is interesting so far. And then the second chapter was told from this woman named Christine, and her chapter was also very interesting because she's one of the very religious white straight women who are living in this town, and she starts to like throw a fit because they put up this billboard of like these 2 women holding hands, and she has this husband named Jeff who is like the typical, you know, like misogynist, like he just expects her to like make the dinner every night and like iron his shirts, and he like doesn't really have any respect for her. It's like really funny to read from Christine's perspective because she's like so bothered by the gay people, like she's literally so bothered. And I think already there's so much like subtle commentary in this book, which does remind me of So Happy For You. Like I can definitely tell that these were written by the same author, which is a great sign. So yeah, I mean with this story, I'm only like 60 pages in at this point, but it's going very well so far. I don't know if I'm gonna have any time to read more of this today because I just finished filming a video and then I need to edit 2 videos like probably tonight, because tomorrow I'm gonna be going on a little trip with my family. We're just gonna be doing this little like Airbnb trip, and we're gonna be going to this little island in Washington that we've never been to before. So I'm definitely gonna be trying to finish this book up while we're on our vacation. I mean, hopefully I can like read this book on the drive down there. I think that would be great. It's only about a 2-hour drive, so I think that'll be a perfect time for me to listen to this on audio. Yeah, so far it's going well. Like what if we do have a 5-star potential on our hands with this?
faster now. Beneath the North Star, all things that glow in the dark. 2 steps from the edge, moving closer. In the deep, last upon the
Hello, how's it going? I thought that I would film a quick update because I am now staying at the Airbnb with my family, if you couldn't tell. Dude, the freaking hammock that's in the backyard at this Airbnb, it is so nice. I was reading out there for probably like 30 to 45 minutes this afternoon while the sun was going down. It was just so magical. And I'm literally, I don't know if you can tell, I'm sleeping in a bunk bed tonight. I mean, with nobody else because, you know, Rachel and Obed got a room, my parents got a room, and then I got the room that's presumably the kids' room. I mean, there is a theme of like sloths and there's like little stuffed animals everywhere, and there's children's books on the desk in the corner. So I'm thinking this is the kids' room. I was gonna sleep on the top bed tonight, but I am afraid that if I have to pee in the middle of the night, I'm afraid of like climbing down this ladder in the pitch darkness. So I think I'm actually gonna sleep on this bottom bunk, but I'm hoping that this won't feel like too claustrophobic. It has been so long since I've slept in a bunk bed. But anyways, I've still been reading Under the Rainbow. I'm now 194 pages into this. Really loving this book. Like, I do think that this has 5-star potential for me. I love how many characters we're following in this book, which is something I usually don't like. Like, I usually get overwhelmed when there's too many characters. And in this book so far, every single chapter is told from the perspective of like a new character. Like, we have not repeated a single point of view in a chapter, and usually I would find that like really overwhelming. But honestly, it's kind of interesting in this book because each chapter kind of reads like they're different short stories or something. And some of the characters are like overlapping. Like, we are seeing some of the same characters in this small town, but every perspective that we're getting is very different. There was something that happened right before the end of part 1 of this book, or like there's like a time jump to like the 2nd year of this small town, and right before the time jump there was kind of something that happened in the plot that I was like, oh shit, like some shit went down that I was not expecting, and I was like, oh wow. I think so far my favorite perspective to read from had to be Linda's perspective. I found her to be such an interesting character, and she was probably like the 3rd or maybe the 4th chapter in this book. Like, I just really loved getting her point of view, and I almost hope that we revisit her character later on in the story. I love though the mix of characters that we're getting the perspective from in this book, because we are following some characters who were just like characters who are living in this small town in Big Burr, but then we also do get the perspective of like some characters who are working for this task force, this acceptance across America. And so we do get the perspective of, you know, these characters who are working for this AAA, and we kind of get to see like what it's like to do this job. And then I also like that at times we follow characters who are discovering that they might be queer themselves, and then we also follow different perspectives of like, we're following a character who like their spouse has just discovered the fact that they're queer and they want to get a divorce because they realize that they're interested in the same sex only. There's just a lot of really unique and interesting perspectives in this book, and I think that's what makes each one of these chapters feel like its own short story or something. I also think Big Burr, Kansas has just been a really interesting town to read about in general, because, you know, the town where I'm currently living is a very, very small town, and it's very white and very conservative. And so it really makes you think about an organization like this, you know, this acceptance across America, and if a queer task force like this actually existed in reality, it really does make you wonder about how these small towns would actually react to something like this if it existed. Because I keep comparing Big Burr, Kansas in this book to like the small town that I'm currently living in, and I can just see so much crossover there. And so I feel like in a way I'm connecting and relating to this even more because I live in a really small white conservative town, and I know a lot of people that are like this. I love too, like, there was this one conversation where these characters were talking about how the movie The Wizard of Oz is like so gay, and somebody in the small town was like, what do you mean? And they're like, think about it, the black and white reality of small town unaccepting Kansas, then somewhere over the rainbow is the colorful welcoming metropolis of Oz. And they're like, so Big Burr is somewhere under the rainbow. And I'm like, ah. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I have like a little bit less than 100 pages left to go, and I'm planning on finishing up the rest of this tomorrow. I know that in the local town here, they have like a few different bookstores. I noticed they have at least 2 bookstores in the town. So hopefully tomorrow I can go and check out the bookstores. And then hopefully I also find the time at some point tomorrow to finish up this read, and I'm excited. I hope the rest of it goes well.
Kill me to fall again.
Hello, I am back at the Airbnb after a day of exploring out at the beach, and it was so freaking nice. Like, I can't get over how beautiful this area is out here. I also did hit up the bookstore, by the way, and the only book that I ended up picking up is this one called The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry, and this is by Gabrielle Zevin, which I have read a book from this author before. She's the author of Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which is a book that I read a number of years ago now that I enjoyed, and I've heard really good things about this one. I'm also excited to let you know that while I was at a coffee shop this afternoon, I read the rest of Under the Rainbow, and I think I'm gonna give this book 5 stars. There's just something about the way that this author writes her books that really works for me personally. I don't know, it's like her writing is like somehow really like darkly funny but kind of like lighthearted at the same time. I don't know if her books are meant to be read as like satire, but that's almost like the kind of vibe they give me at times. And the ending of this had so much more heart than I was expecting. I love that at the very end of this story we do revisit one of the characters that we had talked about earlier in the book. Like, we do get the same perspective from one character that we had before, but we do get a time jump at the end, so we kind of get to see how this organization, you know, this Acceptance Across America, has changed this town in the future. And I feel like this book had a lot more heart at the end than I was expecting. There was literally one scene at the end that almost made me cry in public, and that was something that I was not expecting. And as I mentioned, you know, last night, I also do love that this book has so many different characters. Like, we get the perspective of so many different characters living in this small town. And I love that one of the perspectives we got was from like this really elderly woman who like didn't understand anything about like what it means to be trans or what it means to be non-binary. But like, in my opinion, her perspective was so sweet to read because she was very open-minded to like learning, and I feel like that just goes to show that like it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter how like set in your ways you are about like things that you think you know everything about life, but like you're never too old to like relearn, you know, new things and like learn people's pronouns. It was just really sweet at the end of it and very wholesome, and the ending just almost brought a little tear to my eye. So I think this one has to be 5 stars. Like, it's giving me all of those 5-star feelings. I think my only like critique, or like the only thing that I wanted more of, is I wanted even more explanation about this like queer task force and what the AAA actually is really, and like what they really do on like a day-to-day basis. We got like a little bit of that, but I feel like I wanted even more of it throughout the book. But regardless, I do think that this is a 5-star book for me. Hey, hello, it is editing me about a week later, realizing that I never gave this vlog a proper outro. Honestly, the more that I reflect on the books that I read for this video, dude, I think The Memory Police is also probably a 5-star for me. I don't know, it's been weeks at this point since I've read this book, and this book has really stayed with me, and I've been thinking about this book a lot, and I've been thinking about these characters. And I feel like when a book leaves this big of an impression on me, I feel like it's gotta be 5 stars. Like, I don't know why sometimes I get so picky with my 5-star ratings, and like sometimes it's harder for me to tell like right after I've read a book if it is something that I would give 5 stars. I had like the same experience with the book Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle earlier this year, where like I read it and then I was like, yeah, that's like a 4.5. And then the more that I sat on it, I was like, no, that's a 5 star. Like, why do I have to be so picky sometimes? Like, just because I didn't like 1 or 2 things doesn't necessarily mean that the book isn't a 5 star. Because the lasting impact that this has had on me and the way that I'm still thinking about this every day is just enough evidence for me to know like this is gonna go down as one of my all-time favorites, you know? And so I am really glad to know that even though it's been a minute now since I've read both of these books, they have really stuck with me, and I'm confident in the fact that I can say that these are both 5 stars. So that's incredible. But thank you so much for watching this vlog. As always, I really do appreciate it. I would love to know if you still enjoy these Backlist Bonanza vlogs, and in the future, would you like to see me do a vlog more in this style where like I can't stop reading until I find a 5-star, or do you prefer the kind of Backlist Bonanza episodes where I do like the spin the wheel and I have the spin the wheel choose books off of my shelves for me to read? Let me know if you have a preference on what you would like to see going forward, but I am hoping to have at least one more episode of the Backlist Bonanza before the end of this year, so do let me know if you have any preference on like what style of vlog I do for the next episode. And thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye!